Not a chance.
Good. That's good too. Okay.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-core villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos. By the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another eternally horny episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 509, recorded on Saturday, December 28th, 2024. Tonight we're talking about the latest from your boy Bobby Eggs. The movie is Nosferatu. Brand new film. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from, I think, still Florida, we got your boy Randeezy. What's up?
Do you want the mustache on or off?
Thanks for that beautiful introduction, Bob.
Hey, you're very welcome. I don't know where you are. You're omnipresent, really.
I
You're
am.
everywhere.
I'm floating in the skies above Florida for the next week or so, and I'm hoping never to make groundfall.
Your shadow has been visiting me at night, and I'm not upset about it.
I know, buddy. I know.
Word. Next up, also calling in from Florida, we got your boy Soju. What's up, dog?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Goth Sex Stains, boys. Get the Deftones on.
Oh no.
They call me White Pony.
Come to daddy.
Around the fur, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, they got a lot
I
of
do know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
Even though it's the
do.
only stock we trade in here, so we're gonna be fine.
Yeah, we're doing all right. Last but not least, welcoming back to the show our good friend Matt. What's up, dog?
Not a lot. I'm hoping I can summon this introduce you we're talking about, but boy, oh boy, this movie was so horny, but not for me. I got an anti-boner right now.
Damn.
Oh no.
Damn.
Concave boners. That's not a good time.
Hate to see it. I hate to see it.
I definitely
Man.
hate to see it. Not into it.
Methinks the lady protests too much. Matthew, you have been on the show several times before, but if it's someone's first time listening, you've got a podcast of your own. Why don't you make sure everybody knows about it?
Yeah, it's called Swords and Stereo. We talk about historical fencing. I haven't put out an episode in over a year, but all that information's still good. If you want to learn about fighting people with swords, go ahead and jump on a podcatcher and start listening to our hilarious fencing podcast.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
and you also you run a sword school in Jacksonville too.
Yeah,
right?
it's Bull City Longsword. We're right off of I-10 in the Murray Hill area. If you're around, we train every other day, 4 days a week. So yeah, swing in. Your first visit's free. So come in, take both classes, learn how to slash, stab, juggle, flip, all that cool stuff.
Is juggling a standard fencing technique?
It is not. I was being funny.
Okay, all right.
But it can be. It certainly can be.
Juggling
Well, yeah,
axes.
go ahead and learn how to murder people with swords if you're in the northeastern Florida area. Matt, you were very dedicated to swords, but you're also very dedicated to our show. You watched this movie twice in the past, like
24
what,
hours. Yes.
24? Yeah. Less
That's
than
like
that, right?
19 of the 24 hours.
It is. Yeah.
I will say it was better the second time.
Oh,
Cool.
I didn't feel lost, and I knew when it was going to end, so it didn't feel as long. So yeah, the second watch was much better. I was also not drunk, so that helped.
okay. Well, I think we got to the root of the issue.
You're
Awesome.
also becoming a bit of our Eggers expert because you were also on the North Mang episode.
Yeah,
An expert, if you will.
I was expecting some swords in this movie, if I'm being honest. That the Eastern Germany and Poland, all that has a very strong saber tradition, especially in this time period. A lot of people still study the manuals that were written at the time this movie took place. But yeah, not once I didn't see one sword. A
Really
few
dropped the
boxes,
ball
like I
there,
said.
Edgars.
Yeah.
So
Mr.
much for
Edgars.
historical accuracy, am I
Bobby
right?
Eggs, as we're
Did he
calling him
try?
now.
Did he even try? I don't think so.
This is not a man who does his research,
Half
guys. Come
star.
on.
like
Bobby
us.
Eggs just flies by the seat of his pants.
Well, our main character was a real estate agent and a housewife. I don't know why they would have a sword, but I was just hoping to see one.
for
You don't know, I don't know.
protection. You know,
A real estate
obviously.
agent might need a sword.
For self-defense, of course.
Yeah.
So, fence is right in the name. Hey, let's get going so we can actually talk about this thing.
Yeah, I guess we might as well. Yeah, before we get into it, let's tackle just a little bit of housekeeping real quick here. This episode is coming out the first of the year. So at the time of you listening to this, the January poll will have closed. Right now, looking at the numbers, Oddity is still in first place. So we'll most likely be talking about Oddity very, very soon. But that does mean our February poll is currently posted over on our Patreon website. So if you guys support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this February. The theme for February is modern sci-fi. We got 3 movies up there. Obviously, nobody's voted on them yet. So got no numbers to report, but the movies are Dark City, Signs, and The World's End.
Whoa,
Bob.
Bob,
What do you
think?
speculate those
Yeah, what do you
numbers to
think
be?
those numbers are going to be looking like?
We're always
Kinda.
wrong. Signs in first place, maybe? Next time we talk about
Wait,
it.
what were they again? Give them to me one more time. Signs at World's End.
In Dark City.
Dark
No, it's
City.
not a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. The World's End.
The World's
Yeah,
End. Okay.
the
Well,
Eggy
cool.
Wright one, you know?
Cool. I wonder what inspired this poll. No kind of nefarious things flying through the airs these days.
Flying over New Jersey specifically. Nothing has been happening.
The Jersey drones.
I mean, that's an accurate statement, probably.
That damn AI Sasquatch is at it again.
Oh my god.
He's after my bottle again.
My buttle?
My bottle
My
again.
buttle.
He's after
Let me
me,
introduce my
buttle.
buttle.
He's after me, bottle.
We're
I'm
not
a pirate now.
How many of us are drinking? Because there's a lot of slurred speech.
It is
happening.
Saturday. This is a rare time where casting on a Saturday. So
Yeah. Almost never happens.
3 weeks in Florida and I'm pirating again.
Nah,
He after me, bottle.
me buttle.
Let me introduce me buttle.
Get those
Let me
votes in.
introduce it.
Ace Ventura style. Get those votes in. You got a whole month. Yeah, do it. We're dropping minicasts every other Friday. We just dropped one on Friday, December 20th, talking about A Quiet Place Day 1. That was your boy Soju.
Yeep.
You know, check that out over on our Patreon website. Also, that was like the 148th minicast I think we've put out so far.
Oh my God.
And if you guys have not subscribed at the $10 level, all you got to do is jump in right now. You'll immediately have access to 148 bonus episodes of Straight Chilling, and you'll receive an RSS feed that you can copy and paste into your podcatcher of choice, so you can listen to all of those, obviously on Patreon, but if you prefer to listen to iTunes or wherever, you can plug that RSS feed into it, and you can listen to it however you prefer. So
Cool.
check that out. It's a good time. A shitload of stuff.
Hitting that brown note. All
You
right.
shit your pants. Your
Yeah.
buttle just shit. So
Me bottle. Me
Buttle
bottle.
just shit.
juice.
that's all the Patreon stuff we have going on. I don't think I have any plugs. Do you guys have anything you want to plug?
I don't know.
Only me bottle.
Yeah, you fucking need to. God damn.
After that
He's
brown
leaking.
note.
Actually,
That's weird.
I was on a cut above last week, so go
Yeah,
ahead
you
and
were.
share that in. Yeah.
Whoa.
We
Talking
talked
about,
Terrifier 3.
I
Yeah,
think it's
that's like
pronounced a
5:30.
coo-to-boo. We established this a couple
Coo-to-boo.
of weeks ago.
We're fucking everything up. Just nobody knows what we're
God
saying.
damn, there's
I was featured on a
A
coo-to-boo.
cootie-boo. Talking about me butter.
they loosened up me bottle.
What is
With
happening?
the reach around.
There's
Welcome to
I,
Nosferatu.
I've never been more grateful that my in-laws are not
Thank,
here right now.
thanks for listening, Bobby Eggs. I hope you appreciate the critique we have of your
this
film.
is hard hitting shit
I
right
know
here.
you're listening.
Bobby Eggs scrambling our brains. It sounds like this house is clean.
I would wager that that's true, and that's now I'm going to prove it by finding the bump.
His house is clean.
All right, let's get into the main event. We're talking about Nosferatu, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob,
There it is.
how long
That-
till you order this box? Do you have the original Nosferatu box?
Yeah, I do. I didn't dig it out, but yeah, I've got it. The
Okay.
original on Blu-ray. I also have the Werner Herzog remake on Blu-ray, the one from the 70s. And I've got Shadow of the Vampire on DVD because it's not on Blu-ray or 4K, and that's a crime. Okay?
Gotcha. How about the boat one from last year? I forgot the name.
boat.
Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yeah, you got that one.
Maybe. Honestly. I think so.
Rob doesn't even know.
I think so.
I'm going to have to dig through the stacks on that one.
I'll be right back.
Let me check the
Um,
catalog. Bob, you got a catalog for that room?
In my brain, which is clearly
Yeah.
perfect. Real
All
tight.
right.
You know, nothing will fail on that.
Tighter than your buttle. Yeah, this is, you can't pre-order this yet, but I'm sure at the time of you listening to it, you probably can. So Nosferatu, brand new, just came out on Christmas Day, rated R with a runtime of 2 hours and 12 minutes. This was written and directed by Robert Eggers. Of course, this is loosely based on Bram Stoker's novel or the original Nosferatu because they're very similar. Stars Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård, Willem Dafoe, Aaron Taylor Johnson. Some other lovely folks are in here as well. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. A gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. We've all seen this very, very recently. It's a new release. Would you folks recommend people check this one out? Matt, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I have to say, plague vampires are definitely not the same as space vampires. Totally, totally different atmosphere. But
Not as fuckable, Matt?
yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
Okay.
But I will say, since I saw it a second time, I do feel better recommending this movie. The beginning, on my first watch, I thought the beginning was a little slow, and there's definitely scenes in here that aren't for everyone. But it's the acting's amazing. The sets and scenery are amazing. The acting, the acting's great. So I would say, for most people, yeah, go watch this and watch it in the theater, where all that work he put in, you can see it better.
Awesome. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I would recommend people check this out. It, like Matt said, it's very beautiful, so I think it's worth going to the theater to watch on a huge screen. And it's got the winter vibes Christmas film. We got a brand new Christmas horror film to add to the list,
Oof.
so thank God for that. But it's got the winter vibes too, it's snowing a lot, and so I think that works. And this may be, I don't know, there's some scenes that are definitely gonna hit hard for the normies, but it is like, since it's a classic, Dracula tale in a way, it almost is one of those films where you can take people who aren't necessarily into horror. So maybe that'll work for some people. But yeah, generally I would recommend. Bob, would you recommend people check this out?
Yeah, I would give a general recommend for horror crowds. I think if you've seen Robert Eggers' work before, you kind of know exactly what you're getting into. And that may be sort of a detriment to the film for me personally, but it is very beautiful. The acting is very, very lovely. Some really impressive performances here. And I think there's been some debate about the look of Count Orlok, but we'll get into that. But yeah, generally, I think you should definitely go to the theater and watch this movie for sure. Randy, what about you?
I mean, yeah, generally, yes. I think you kind of said it where, like, if you're familiar with Robert Eggers' work, you know what you're getting. This is a strange film, so like the accessibility is a little bit different than it is. Like, this isn't a Deadpool movie. You know what I'm saying? There's gonna be there's a ceiling to the amount of accessibility here. But that said, it is, I think, broadly appealing to people who want sort of like a true period piece of a horror movie. And yeah, I think it is going to branch out beyond the confines of the horror community for sure. If it hasn't already, I haven't looked into that, but yeah, I think it's generally recommendable.
All right. Sounds like a recommendation across the board from the crew here at Straight Chilling. We are going to be spoiling Nosferatu, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, just type up a plot synopsis for this one.
I did. I got it right here.
Whoa, when did you do that? I hung out at your house last night and I didn't see you typing
Well, I did it while you were still asleep.
while you
I
were
was
watching.
standing
Oh,
over your bed, yeah, staring into your butthole.
Well,
Uh,
I sleep butthole up and out.
Wide open, too.
Dear
What?
Lord.
Open.
It's my normal sleeping stance. All right, well, Bob, go ahead and hit us with that plot synopsis.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. The movie opens up with Ellen praying desperately for companionship in the night, which invites a beastly shadow figure into her room, which then leads her to have a seizure. We then jump forward to 1838, Visburg, Germany. We see an adult Ellen now married to Thomas Hutter, rather. Thomas, working for a real estate agent, accepts a somewhat strange proposition for a chance to earn a large commission. He agrees to bring closing papers for a rundown property to Count Orlok's remote home. Unbeknownst to Thomas, his boss, Herr Knock, has already made a pact with Count Orlok. Ellen begs Thomas not to go, but he sets off for the Carpathian Mountains in Transylvania anyway. His wealthy friend Frederick agrees to watch over Ellen while he's gone. Thomas arrives at an inn in Transylvania. That night, he has a dream of the locals digging up a vampire and ramming a stake through its chest. He wakes up, and everyone is just mysteriously gone. Thomas finally arrives at the castle and finalizes the paperwork with Orlok. He cuts his thumb, and Orlok mesmerizes him and drinks his blood. Thomas has bizarre dreams and eventually finds Orlok sleeping in a coffin. He tries to kill him, but is chased off by wolves. Thomas falls off the castle wall into the river and is eventually found by nuns and nursed back to health. He heads back to Visburg to protect Ellen, as Orlok departs on a ship for Visburg as well. Meanwhile, Ellen suffers from intense seizures her doctors can't treat. His doctor then seeks the help of his mentor, Albin Eberhard von Franz, who is known for his occult expertise. He concludes Ellen is under the spell of the Nosferatu, a demonic plague-bearing vampire. Erich Knock is institutionalized after a bloody rampage at a Christmas market. The doctors then search his office and find evidence he has made a pact with the Nosferatu. Thomas arrives at Visburg, as does Orlok, bringing plague rats with him. Ellen has a vision of Orlok, who tells her that Thomas sold her to him for a bag of gold, and she now has 3 nights to accept Orlok on her own free will, or he will kill the entire town. Her own free will. So that doesn't sound very free. On the second night, Orlok kills Friedrich's family. After their funeral, a grief-stricken Friedrich dies of the plague as he commits necrophilia with his wife's corpse. Thomas and the doctors plan to destroy Orlok's resting place, even though von Franz believes Ellen is the only one who can really stop Orlok. He tells her and she agrees to make the ultimate sacrifice and save the town. Von Franz distracts Thomas by destroying Orlok's grave, as mentioned. Meanwhile, Orlok appears to Ellen, who agrees to let him suck her blood. He does so until the rooster's first crow and is caught in the morning light, killing him.
The cock's
Thomas-
first crow, Bob.
You're right.
It's very important that you get this verbiage correct.
I know.
Come on.
Thomas ends up holding Ellen's hand as she dies, with Orlok's shriveled, tiny ass corpse laying on top of her. Roll them credits.
All
Underdeveloped
right.
hamstrings, you know. You
Talk to
gotta
me, talk to me, talk to me, baby.
don't skip leg day.
Got them
Orlok.
pancake booties. Woo.
Just like Mama used to make. That buttle was wide open though, which sleeping just like juice. There you go. A very, very familiar tale. Um,
Face on top of Yabos. That's how I like to fall asleep.
that's the dirty pillows, some might say.
Hey,
I wanted to
we can
ask
we
this.
can
I wanted to ask this question. I don't know if it's a part of trivia or anything like that, but why do you guys think that Eggers decided to make this film Nosferatu instead of a Dracula film?
I
Do you
have a
think that?
little bit of trivia on
Do
that.
you?
So
Mhm.
yeah, I
Kind
read
of
like a
curious
couple
about it.
couple interviews with him. And this movie is like extremely formative for him, like just generally being interested in horror and eventually becoming an actor and becoming a filmmaker. He said like when he was very little, there was a movie shop like 30 or 40 minutes away from his hometown, and his mom like drove him over there, and they had to like place an order for the Nosferatu tape and wait like a week for it to finally get in. And it got in, he watched it. It was just like left this giant mark on him as a child, and apparently when he was in high school he also went on to direct and also play Count Orlok in a stage play of Nosferatu that was all in black and white, like everybody painted themselves in black and white. And
That's so cool.
he's
yeah.
just always been sort of
He
enamored
was
by
extremely
the
popular,
film.
I'm sure.
I'm
I
sure he was. So yeah, it just means a lot to him, I guess. But yeah, it's a fair question because the stories overlap so much.
Well,
Like, why not go all the way back to the very original source? But
it seems like uh, this Nosferatu would have way less baggage though. Like there's
mm,
so many retellings of Dracula. We know all the characters' names. We know all the beats. And so like this movie, he's still able to surprise us a little bit, especially people who aren't familiar with the original film. Uh, and then like you can get away with changing like the look and like the pacing too, because
Hmm.
everyone just knows Dracula's story so well. I mean, like that's why the Voyage of the Demeter didn't make any money because people are like, I've seen this 100 times. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought even maybe like the settings because it is changed a little bit, like the setting of the town, and I thought that might be more like visually interesting or like culturally interesting
yeah,
from a filmmaking standpoint.
this film set like almost 50 years before Dracula,
Hmm.
and it's
mm.
in a fictional town in North Germany,
Yeah,
opposed to London.
yeah.
So,
Bisberg.
And
uh,
oh
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna say I think that probably I also was one of those nerds that got really into Nosferatu at like the age of like 11. Like I like the original 20s film. I bought a copy on eBay that had a terrible middle
Me
soundtrack
too.
over it for some reason.
Typo
Um
negative.
yeah, I hated that. But I did like the movie quite a lot, and the visuals of it are really what it's about. Like this is a very eerie. Like to me, this is scarier than the Bela Lugosi, or I'm sorry, the 1920s version is scarier than the Bela Lugosi version, just because it feels like an unearthed thing. It almost has that found footage effect to it, even though it's just
Mm.
not that at all. And the history of it is so interesting because this movie almost didn't like make it out. I
Yeah,
mean, it didn't survive because of the creators like anti-fascist views and all this stuff. Like there was all this. It's just visually and historically a very specific thing in and of itself, even though it is so close to the original Dracula. And I think that like Max Schreck's Count Orlok is so visually specific that if you was to like really go for that and not call it Nosferatu, we'd be asking why he's not calling it Nosferatu. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
like, why not go full
Yeah.
bore into the history of that, which includes Dracula and Bram Stoker and all of that shit, but is this sort of distinctively culturally its own thing? I think at this point.
I think he
Yeah.
does blur the line a little bit. Like he definitely expounds upon the story in a way that the original Nosferatu movie sort of cuts a lot of stuff out.
Yeah.
And we did review that 3 years ago, I think. If you want to hear us talk about the original film, you can. It's out there, and there's a lot of history on it. I tried to include as much as I could in that episode, but like in this version of Nosferatu, I feel like he expands quite a lot with the character of Ellen. She's almost like a footnote in the original movie, whereas Lily Rose Depp is like a full-blown realized character in this who has some really incredible scenes. I feel like you get a lot more out of the hair knocked character in this, and he's sort of like a Renfield acting type character. You get a
Mhm.
little more of like the boat ride than you do in the original film. So he does bring in some more things, and he does change the look of Count Orlok as well, which I think all the choices he made were pretty smart. They seemed like well researched as he tends to be, but like I think the mustache and the hair and like the back of his head like rotting off, his like
Hmm.
deep ass voice, that coat, the way he steps and you hear his like feet just like they just echo through the halls as if he weighs like 3 tons or something. But then in other scenes he's like floating. I think the way they sort of treat Count Orlok in this movie was one of the highlights for me. I thought Skarsgård did a really great job with it.
I liked it too. Like I think that like what this is like definitely an Eggers approach where it is you can identify like the logic behind so many of these decisions about how they treated specifically the look of Orlok and some of the story beats or whatever, and it all comes down to research, but it's not research of like one thing. It's not like there's a like he's using Bram Stoker's and being slavishly devoted to that and he's not claiming to be. It's like it uses some of that, and it uses the history of this film, and it uses Vlad the Impaler and his connection to the Dracula mythos as like I see that as where the like the mustache look comes from. It's more of like a count sort of
The
thing.
Carpathian Mountains too,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
The vocal performances, all that stuff, and then like, but like it also is like a scary fucking vampire in the sense that this is not sexy ass, Edward Cullen. This is not fucking it's not even Bela Lugosi. It's like this is not a seductor. This is a
But it kind of
fucking
is, yeah.
monster. Like he is, but it's like through
Yeah.
malevolent means. It's not at all. It's sex. It involves sex, but it's sexless, or it's
Mm.
not sexy, I should say.
speak for yourself, Randy.
Oh,
Damn.
okay, yeah. You enjoy it however you like. No,
I like
no,
those
I won't
flat
yuck your
booties,
yum,
Randy.
you
That
fucking
really.
Mhm.
creep.
Well, yeah.
Nosferatu!
There it is.
One thing I remember saying this like last year. It probably was with the Demeter review, but I don't know recently where we have a ton of iterations of Dracula and the Dracula story, and it doesn't have a lot of variation. It doesn't switch
Mhm.
up. I mean, even with the ideas of like Nosferatu and stuff like that, a lot of the beats are very similar. The characters are very similar, and there's like some slight changes. But I mean, anytime you get a Dracula story, you get the housing idea, you get the traveling to the castle, you get the castle
Mhm.
scenes, you get the
Mhm.
introduction to Dracula, the carriage rides, all those things are well established and recognizable. And but one thing I kind of really liked about this movie was I feel like it was the first time I saw a lot of the implied ideas and meanings behind Dracula pulled together and felt like the most clear across the board. Um, and some of them, like, I considered in a new kind of way. Like, okay, so like Randy introducing the idea of him saying, like, oh, he's not like seducing in this way. But I think it is interesting to have this, they almost treat it like a relationship. And,
Mhm.
and, God, I want to call her by her Dracula name. What is the name in here? Ellen.
Ellen.
Okay. So Ellen kind of going through it feels like this ex-lover, this toxic ex-lover, or something of like her kind of explaining it to Nicholas Holt's character, who I want to call Jonathan. His name is Thomas. So explaining to Thomas of like, I was at the low point in my life, and this is how I was introduced to this character, and this is why it still has this lingering effect on me, and why it still affects my life, even though I love you or whatever. And so it did kind of feel like this connection with a modern audience of this kind of toxic ex-lover that's not he's not beautiful, he's not anything, but he came into your life in a time where you were at your lowest, um
Hmm.
and kind of manipulated you in this certain way that has this long lasting. If she was very young, going through this
Hmm.
tragedy, all those things, and I thought that that was really interesting. It's not necessarily something that I've really that's come to the forefront of my mind in other Dracula iterations. Sometimes he's very sexy and people just fall for him because he's got this kind of power or whatever and stuff like that. And I
He has a
thought that
base human manipulative power, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I thought this connection in that way was quite interesting and fresh, even though I think that though that's there, and if you go back and look at other iterations, I think that exists still. But this one felt like the most clear to me and the most where I was going, oh, yeah,
I
that's
was
quite
so interested in
interesting.
that, right? Like, but
Yeah.
also, like, you could interpret it different ways because I walked out of the theater myself thinking of this interpretation, and I'm not sure what I don't know if I subscribe to any one particular interpretation of this, but like the relationship between Ellen and Orlok in this, to me, it's like it's she is in the story she is clairvoyant. She calls out to somebody for companionship, and it's an erotic companionship, and this undead creature I think might have been birthed from that clairvoyant wish into the universe. So like he is tied to her because she created him. Like I
Yeah,
think
he
there's
says
an
like you
argument to be made
awakened
there.
me or something like that.
Right. Like you could like I think there's a really strong argument that that's the case, and if that's the case, then like this is really more of a story about Ellen than it is about Orlok or a plague even or
Hmm.
anything else. It's about and you can art like Justin, like you said, yeah, she was a very young girl that was maybe taken advantage of, but like if she brought this into the world because she wanted some sort of companionship, a specifically sexual companionship that haunts her, that she only escaped by meeting somebody who was decent to her and who she ultimately rescues who Tom she ultimately rescues Thomas and the rest of Vicksburg by sort of manipulating that sexual desire that he has for her. So she's a heroine in this too. Like she's not
Hmm.
Yeah.
she has agency in a way, like you said, that Ellen in the original maybe doesn't. I don't know. There's just a bunch of ways you can look at this, which is always the beautiful part of an Eggers movie to
I, I
me.
I think the way you just described it is much more clear uh, on that second watch because pretty much states that outright. It's like the first 5 or 6 sentences of the movie. It's just on your first watch, you don't know what the hell she's talking about. Uh, I think this movie also hits way different. I know he was gonna make this like 10 years ago. He's been trying to get this made forever. I think it hits a lot different after COVID because we were all locked inside and super lonely the way she was just wanting to fucking hang out with anybody, even some piece of shit, maybe, like just to have some companionship. So I think as an audience, we can relate to her more now that it has came out after COVID than before.
Hmm.
And maybe even as a writer, he could write those scenes better now.
Making that
Maybe,
booty
yeah.
call late at night, bringing dudes back from
We
the
all been
You
dead.
think they
there.
I
you think
know.
you
You
think the
up?
stage play in high school ended the same way with a rotting corpse man on top of somebody?
I don't
Uh,
know if you can show a high school ass in a high school play. I don't think that's
Well,
okay.
well,
that seems
yeah.
fair.
And so to kind of build another one that felt like very, we talked about it. By the way, I think I just pulled it up. I think it was like 361 was our Nosferatu episode. We talked about it.
Hmm.
We probably also talked about it during we covered old Bram Stoker's Dracula and whatnot. But another one was the connection between coming like him being a foreigner, and maybe it's the way they presented him with the mustache and the accent and coming
The one
over
in the middle has an unpleasantly ethnic quality.
coming over on the boat crashing and there being a bunch of rats, and the guy specific the shipyard captain or whatever saying like it's a plague boat, and him being, I think he was like a very good piece in this film where he is denying the idea, and he never confronts the idea that there is a Nosferatu, that there is a vampire loose, because he sees his wife getting gnawed on by rats, and there's dead people in the streets, and he just thinks that the disease. So I guess the connection between the kind of tragedy that was plague at that time, the real tragedy of plague, and finding this scapegoat or finding this excuse in the same way that we talk about, okay, this real tragedy that happened to people and they developed Godzilla out of it. Okay, this was the
Hmm.
atomic bomb that we established. Okay, there's this real tragedy of a plague that killed, thousands of people in a town,
It's a
and finding
personification.
this story to tell that pain through. Oh, this Nosferatu, this monster that's created out of that. And that was like also very interesting to me. It's always another thing that's always been there, but I kept thinking about Godzilla through this, especially in those scenes. I like just kept thinking about this way of taking a societal trauma, a societal like way to like we have to cope with this. We have to kind of like get through this. We have to like, and sometimes it comes in blame of the other, like, oh, they came on the ships, they brought the
Hmm.
rats and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But really just creating this monster that transcends time, that kind of encapsulates a generation's trauma in that way. And that was also very interesting. I thought really well done in this film.
Yeah, I think that's really well explored in the Herzog film too.
Mm.
Maybe a little less so in the original. I mean, it's a shorter version, but I think that the Herzog movie really gets into that pretty well.
I had
I
a
think the Willem Dafoe character in this being sort of like I guess a vampire hunter, and he's like the Van Helsing, and he's like really into the occult, which is something that they touch on a little bit in the original film, and I really wanted them to go deeper into that area in this movie. Something that we talked about when we reviewed the original is the producer, a dude named Albin Grau, who actually developed the look of Count Orlok, did a lot of work on the movie, was like way into the occult. Um, and he tried to put some of that in the film, like you see all of those symbols and stuff on the paper in the original movie, and there's those symbols are sort of like ported over to this, like all over um the coffin that not Count Orlok is like sleeping in, and the documents that he has him sign and stuff. And then we see Herr Nock do that whatever in the pentagram. He does like some sort of spell or blood pact or something like that. I kind of thought they were gonna go like deeper into the occult with it and have like maybe more people worshiping Count Orlok or working for him, or just sort of explore that realm a little bit deeper. We do get more of it in the movie, but I think not quite as much as I was hoping for. And I
Hmm.
think that would have set this apart a little bit more from the others. I think this movie did suffer from me personally, and I've only seen it the one time. Maybe my opinion will change on a rewatch, but this story is just like so well known because I mean the original movie came out like 102 years ago, so I mean we're very familiar
Hmm.
with it. So it felt like I wasn't necessarily surprised by too many things, if anything, really, other than maybe a handful of like moments. These actors just really nailing their parts. I was hoping for things to set this more apart from the other films, and there wasn't quite as much as I was hoping for. But the occult was something that they did touch on a little more, but I could have used a little
I do want to
more.
touch
But
on that some more about like the familiarity of it, but Matt, think you were trying to say something as well, and I want to give
Yeah,
you a
man, we were
shot.
Oh,
talking
I,
about the
I just
plague.
had a question, like, because we were discussing the idea of it being a metaphor for foreigners coming in, and did y'all take the main characters as German, or did you take them as British people living in Germany, like as businessmen abroad? Because it would really change how you view some of those viewpoints
hmm,
of the
It's an
foreigners
interesting
coming into
thought.
the city.
I
And if it was
recognize
a
them
no
as
sorry, go ahead.
citizens because the rich guy, the guy who's the ship captain, it made it seem like his dad did the same job. in that
Yeah,
town
he
because he
inherited a
said he
business.
inherited that job. So that would be
Hmm.
really strange. So
But
even if they were foreigners, then that means they've been there for a while because his father has done that job.
but
So,
also like I can see where you're coming from though, because like this is a Robert Eggers movie, and like if this was any other movie I would like naturally the
Yeah,
conclusion, because
exactly.
it's like just like British is stand-in for all Europeans in so many movies. Like British accent is just like, and I don't know, I don't have a fine-tuned ear for that sort of thing anyway, so I wasn't really thinking about it, but I could see like Robert Eggers is so meticulous in the way he does things that I kind of feel like it's at least something to be brought up. I think that's fair, but I think Justin's right, because like there's that, and then there was something else. I had some other like counterpoint to that, but it just feels like to me that they are meant to be citizens and not. I know that like the kids are listening to O Tenenbaum and all this stuff. Like I think they're German coded, even if their
Hmm.
accents don't match, maybe.
mm.
But
Okay.
I don't know.
And the
Yeah.
kids too, I don't know if that was as British, maybe it was, but the kids' outfit with the white little bonnets and stuff, that felt very European, like German, more German that
Well,
I
I think
would
they had like
associate with like London.
the looped braids and stuff. I think that's
Yeah.
pretty
Well,
German.
their last name
And
is
the
Hutter, and I'm looking up the etymology, and it says, yeah, German.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. I
Harding. I
mean,
mean, most of the surnames are, Canuck,
Yeah, well,
like the
yeah.
Von,
knock.
whatever.
They
Like,
pronounce it knock, I thought, but
I think it's Canuck because the first time I think it's Air Canuck. I think is how they were saying it. I could be wrong, but
maybe I'm wrong. I
But
don't know.
I
But
don't, isn't that a title? Like, weren't they calling each other Air a
hair is
lot?
like
Yeah.
yeah,
hair is
Air.
like
sir.
sir. Yeah,
Or
no, like
okay, yeah, I thought so. Um, but I want to go to Bob's comment. I don't know. I don't think I wouldn't expect an Eggers movie to go in that direction with like I'm gonna add in more occult because that definitely does feel like a an element that seems more suited for something that's like trying to build some universe or something. Like, you're gonna have old what's his name, Gladiator step in and tell you that, oh, and next after this movie we're gonna get some other occult movie. I don't know, like,
you think
yeah,
Doctor Strange is gonna pop in?
yeah, I kind of like, I don't know, I kind of like that Willem Dafoe's character. He at one point he's like, I've never encountered a Nosferatu. I mean,
Yeah, it's like
because
Yeah.
when the rich guy he's like, oh, and he doesn't even know. I mean, he just like he's a guy who studies these things and has gone down this tunnel, and this is really and it kind of makes sense because the rich guy he kind of throws it in his face. He's like, oh, he's only read about it from these old dusty books, and he's just
hmm
speculating these things. Whereas we have a doctor over here who's like more of I guess a man of science or whatever. He's like, well, you've read books too. Like, couldn't you deduce that this is some kind of disease, even if you've never experienced it before in that kind of way? So I kind of like that because it then also does then tie into the idea of the plague. It's like, are we all just like participating in this like mass hysteria thing? Are we
Mm.
losing ourselves to what's really
hmm
happening? Because he sees it that way, and I think he needs to see it that way. Um,
God, I want
so
to go back to that too.
yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily, I personally don't want Willem Dafoe to be better or more deeply involved in I mean, because I don't know, we do see the boss, Nicholas Holt's boss, like, drawing the
Yeah.
design and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I don't know, I think that's enough for me because also too, if we're going back to what Randy was kind of talking about of or was it Matt? Matt, about what Matt was saying about Ellen awakening it. Then I
Mm.
don't
hmm
even know how these people know how to communicate with him, anyways. I
They
don't
just weren't horny
know.
enough to call him.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
This
I was
is the
mainly
thing. Is
just
like,
thinking
oh,
thinking of how they could differentiate it from the
yeah,
previous
I gotcha.
films, but it's I mean it does stand out in certain ways.
see, like I'm sympathetic to the idea that like it'd be nice if there was a little more separation, and I think that a lot of that comes from again like seeing this as a Robert Eggers movie first, which I'm glad to have these like auteur films or whatever. But like because I am actually familiar with this source material, like I wasn't with The Witch, like I wasn't with The Lighthouse, like I wasn't with The Northman. I wasn't familiar with those things at all. So like having all of those things drawn from different sources and putting things together, it was all surprising to me. It was all like strange and interesting and new. And I was missing a little of that feeling here because I'm intensely familiar with not just Dracula's story, but Nosferatu in particular. So like I felt like a little bit bored in the first half of this movie in a way that I didn't expect to be, until
Like
Willem
they were
Dafoe
just
showed
hitting the
up.
beats.
So
Yeah.
like I'm sympathetic to that, but simultaneously I kind of agree with Justin. Like I don't think I want too much more of that because I like what they added, but it's really easy to go too far, and I don't think that this does go too far. I think that the occult stuff it ties into whether or not Ellen birthed him into the world or rebirthed him or whatever, or brought him from clairvoyant reachings into the world. So all these things that are beyond the realm of science are being harnessed by this almost mad character of a Van Helsing type guy, which is so fun to watch, and it's such a nice addition to me. Like it gives a nice actionable thrust to the main characters uh,
Ooh.
main human character. Okay, settle down. Um, but I think it gives like a little bit more agency beyond just we're being terrorized, which the original film is that because like silent films, just because of their nature, because they couldn't communicate things as quickly as we can with audio for starters, like it was heavily flattened. Do you know what I mean? Like all of those details, whatever details they might have included that were in Bram Stoker's novel that weren't, all those things, they don't really get an opportunity to be explored in the original Nosferatu just because of the sheer nature of that form of the medium. And here we need something more. We're a modern audience. We expect a little bit more, and it adds just enough extra to give us something to chew on, which that's what I felt like was lacking from the beginning half. And it makes sense that you would say, Matt, that the beginning it took on a new life for you in the second viewing because it like that context for me didn't really settle in until the third act when I was watching it. So having now that context of like, okay, so there's this whole subplot or this whole like birthing point for Nosferatu in this. There's an origin story for Nosferatu for
Mm.
Count Orlok in this that I wasn't really understanding in the first go. And the first third to half of the movie felt like a straight retelling, just done really well, and that's all good. But it's familiar, and it didn't feel fresh, just because of my particular existing interest in it. So I was happy with the amount we got. Is the short version of what I'm saying.
Something Eggers did say was that he definitely intended this to be like Ellen's story, and it like beginning and ending with her like causing the creature to come to, and then also like saving the town. Really, that bookend alone really does prove it. But like look, like thinking back on it, like the way she was like sort of convulsing, and these doctors didn't know what to do with her, and they kept saying like she had just too much blood in her, and they were like kept bloodletting her, and like obviously Dracula's sucking people's blood. There's an interesting kind of metaphor happening there, I think, in like just this the way that these men like aren't listening to her. Like her doctors are not listening to her. They're listening to like Friedrich, the guy that's like looking over her, and like they're not actually paying attention to her until Albin comes into play, and then he's like, untie this poor girl. Like if she needs to convulse, let her
Mm-hmm.
convulse or whatever. But there's like some interesting stuff going on with like the horror of the brutal nature of like medicine back then, and just like
Yeah.
shirking women off, and like, oh, she's hysterical, or
You
she's
know,
just got too much blood in her, we gotta get some of that blood out.
it's
It's
interesting though,
horrifying.
like because that's one way of looking at it, but simultaneously, like I was struck with this thing of like if if you are looking at this movie as this plague is parallel to COVID, for example,
Mm.
then fucking Willem Dafoe's character is an anti-vaxxer dude. Like he's an occultist. He is looking to things beyond science for answers, and he is right. So like there's a way of looking at this movie that's kind of like makes that you could argue he's kind of a villain in his own right, at least when compared to how we literally see the world in the internal logic of the film, though, he's clearly like operating on an intelligence level that other people are unwilling to go to. But this movie
Yeah.
kind of subverts the Enlightenment, and I don't know, like
Well,
I don't know.
to
There's
go
something to be said about that.
to go off that, I kind of like how in the end they kind of showed him as a bit of a kook, not a kook, but he clearly
Eccentric.
eccentric. But even in the very end, it was clear that he wasn't even interested or believed that Ellen could be saved. He was, he took them there to take care of like the coffins and stuff like that. And he kind of had his own agenda, which was, I mean, the destruction of Nosferatu, but is kind of manipulating and misleading Thomas as well, who
Yeah.
is
It's a
interested
diversion.
in saving his wife.
Because of his
Whereas,
beliefs, which are
yeah,
correct.
yeah,
As
well,
it
yeah,
turns out.
which are correct. But also maybe not. I mean, maybe Ellen could have been saved. I mean, because if they destroyed the coffins, where's Nosferatu gonna go? Even
Yeah,
if
that
he
might have
doesn't
been
have to
enough.
feast, yeah,
Yeah.
even if he doesn't have to feast on Ellen, keeps him there until the rooster crows. Like, where else can he go if they destroy the coffin?
I don't even
So
know if they
Well,
know
she
about
clearly
the
thinks so,
three
and I'm sorry.
nights. I can't remember if she told them that
I don't think they do.
because there's a time limit, but they
Uh,
might not even be aware, you
I
know?
don't think so.
I don't know, but I'm sorry, Matt. You look like
Well,
you're about to chime in
I
there.
just don't think either plan doesn't work unless the other one's happening at the same time. If
Yeah,
she wasn't holding Orlok at bay, they couldn't have destroyed the coffins because he would have killed them.
Good point.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
if they weren't trying to destroy the coffins, he might have sucked her blood and got away. And they can't be sure if he would have been able to save himself or not afterwards. So
Yeah.
both of those things had to be done, and I think the doctor knew that. Frederick and or not Frederick, William Defoe's character knew
Albin,
that. Yeah.
Von, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Big Dick
Uh,
Defoe. Yeah, like this is the thing is like they have that conversation. Defoe and Ellen have this. I'm just gonna call him Defoe.
yeah.
Defoe and Ellen have
That's
that conversation where they sort of plot this, where he's like, "Look, we're gonna go do this thing. I think it's a lost cause. I doubt very much that shoving a wrought iron spike through this thing is gonna kill it. But you have clairvoyance. I have faith in you, and what you're telling me is that you can make this end. You have like an innate sense about how this operates, and he has also read in his occult books that about the first crow, the first light, how he knows that that is something that is established at least in a religious sort of context
yeah.
and sort of like a mythical context. He has like believes that, she believes that innately, and so he like is bolstered by that a little bit. So like he's right to do both things. I think that like it really is mostly for him a means to an end to get Ellen to do her thing, but I also think that he's covering all his bases at the same time. But he's also like he is a madman in his own sense. Like he's comfortable with her doing her thing, but I don't think he would be if she objected. You know what I mean?
Well,
I don't know that he would agree to it if she objected to it
I
because
don't
he
know
has
how
faith
I
in
would
her.
feel story wise if she couldn't save herself. I
I
mean,
agree.
she sacrificed herself, but she saved everyone else. She's
Yeah.
the one who awoken Orlok, and then having this group of fucking rowdy frat boys save her. I don't think would have been satisfactory at all.
Yeah. Probably
No, I
not.
agree with you. And that feels very old-timey in and of itself. So giving her the agency to be like, yeah, I'm going to do this, but there's also critiques from that you could say from that point of view where it's like, yeah, she birthed it into this world and she had to take it out. So like she is Eve, she is original sin, she is all this. You could make that argument too, but she is noble for destroying it. And I think that the erotic things that they talk about, whether or not they're actually sexy on film, are like it's talking about women's agency and being able to have openly sexual thoughts or whatever, but that gets tamped down, that gets beaten down, and then she uses that though to save the day. So it's like by embracing that quality of herself, it can both wreak havoc and save the planet. You know what I mean? It's both a savior and a.
Sex saves the day
And
again,
that's the thing is like, and
That's the
Defoe says
Always
message
this goes
does.
here.
beyond morality, and I think that's true. It goes beyond what we understand as morality, and I think
Mm.
that's kind of like the centerpiece. Like this is force of nature shit, not morality, not something that can be divvied into good and bad. This is just something that exists in a plane of nature that we have not begun to confront yet, and that the Enlightenment has convinced us not to. Which again is like again pushing and pulling against morality that we understand as modern day people.
Yeah.
Dude just couldn't stop banging it out and shriveled up. Couldn't do it.
I
I
mean,
think there's also
it happens to the best of us.
I think there's also just some smaller like themes that I think are work well and are powerful, especially with the characters we're given and the performances that they give. One of the just smaller things that pales in comparison to some of these bigger themes that we're talking about, but was compelling nonetheless, was the confrontation they have of Thomas, you know, doing these things for money, even though she says, like, I don't want you to do this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need these things. I want you, and I want you here, and I want you safe. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what matters to me. Us, and him feeling that societal pressure to go, ooh, I need this promotion at work. And my boss says, this is what's got to be done. And I got to sacrifice myself for the company. And I got to do it so we can have a maid. And I got to compete with my richer friend, and I'm tired of asking him for loans and support and stuff like that. So, I mean, that I thought that there were like little pieces of that, like, when he first says, can my wife stay with you? And he kind of feels like this burden. He says, I'm gonna pay back the loan.
Mm.
And his friend like congratulating, yeah, you're gonna get that promotion. You're gonna be making that, bigger wage. And like the boss like kind of pressuring him in that way, like leading him straight into danger, even though like each step he goes further and further, he realizes like, you know, how negative it is and keeps pushing for that out of that motivation. So I thought that was handled well as well, like little subtle moments throughout the film, and that kind of comes to this big head in their confrontation. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty tired of that trope
Oh,
where
really?
the people get villainized for trying to be take on the role of provider. It's
Mm,
usually a man,
mm,
and like she's like, yeah, don't leave because I need you here right now. But he's
mm-hmm,
like, well, my job fucking sucks, and I want a promotion, and
mm,
I could be here right now, but what happens in 10 years when I'm still the lowest man on the totem pole, and you know it. I'm working this shitty job forever. You want me to work
mm,
this shitty job forever so I don't have to leave?
mm,
Like I don't know. It's not a realistic conversation in the movie. Uh,
Mm.
you know, I feel and and this is a horror movie trope where like every haunted house movie, the dad's just an asshole because he wants to pay the bills on time. And it's really starting to upset me over and over and over again.
Damn.
That's a fair
Well, I don't.
point.
I
I
I don't. Go
I
ahead, Paul.
wanted to say that I generally I see what Matt's saying, but I do love the conversation they have. Like Ellen is trying to convince him not to go, and it's not the things that she's saying are just truly dreams that she's had, but the dream that she describes of like literally marrying death and everybody at their wedding just dying and they're they're taking their vows in front of corpses, and she describes this complete feeling of elation like she's never been more happy in her entire life. And that is so horrifying. That dream that she describes is
Yeah.
so fucked up. It's one of the spookiest moments in the movie for me, and it's just her talking.
I
Uh,
honestly kind of wish we had little flashes, like as she's talking of that
yeah,
scene, because she describes it in such a badass way. But it's fine without too, because you're right, she does do a good job. But yeah, I kind of wish,
I
you
could have
yeah,
done
know.
with that too.
In
Yeah.
fairness to Thomas, though, she says that right when she first wakes up in
Mm.
a fog, and then
yeah.
later when they're over at his friend's house, I'm guessing later that day, she apologizes and she's like, "I didn't mean to
Yeah.
fucking scare you. I just had a nightmare and I just woke up."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's trying to rally it. That's true. I don't know,
Mm.
man. Like, and that's a like I don't know. I was gonna talk about this movie Carry On for what you've been watching, and that movie features like it's for those who have seen it. It's kind of an opposite thing where the uh boyfriend and the girlfriend, the central figures of this movie, one the boyfriend has like tried and failed to become a police officer, and that was his dream. And she's like, well, why don't you go back and do it again? It's like, I want you to get out of this rut. And it's like pushing him to like achieve more. And the whole movie kind of culminates and it's like, you've been asleep for years. You've just been afraid to make a move and all this stuff. And so like I just, as we were talking about this, I was comparing and contrasting these things in my head where it's like there's two kinds of tropes and neither one are right. It's really about the individual person at the core of it. And I think that this movie does a fair enough job at creating that individuality, and Carry On does as well. Of like, this is what you actually want out of life, and your wife to be is supporting that. And in this one, his wife is not supporting him because it's not really his dream to do that. He is doing it out of societal obligation. He could work like he could like there's a million jobs in the world. Like he works a shitty job, but he doesn't want to be a pauper. He wants to be able to hang with his buddy who's a fucking magnate. Like he wants to be part of the upper crust and
But
provide, which is not wrong.
yeah,
But
I
like
think
that's not
he sees his
necessarily a
friend's
life's
wife.
ambition in and of itself. He's clearly conflicted, and it's only because only because she really like gives him the hall pass to do so that he ends up going. I think he could have been talked out of it if that was
Well,
if she had stuck to it.
I think I personally think he's honestly doing it for the family and not just his personal ego.
Yeah, it doesn't feel
Because
like an
the
ego
moment
thing. Yeah.
I don't care about myself that much. The moment they stole my fucking horse, I would have walked home. I'm not walking through the mountains for myself. I might walk through the mountains for my wife, but I'm not walking through the mountains for myself.
Mm,
And that's kind of the vibe I got too.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's again a million ways to kind of look at it, and these are all like philosophical questions that we can pull out of this thing, which is always a plus for me. So I'm
So
very much
once
in favor of
once
these things.
one small change, we were talking about him establishing this. I can't like I get so many of these different iterations mixed up, honestly. But it has these couple different connections, but the winter aspect in the way that he ties it into the general overall look of the film. Like there's several looks where it almost looks black and white, where he just sucks so much of the color out of it. This amazing
Yeah,
scene where Nicholas Holt is waiting for the carriage down this like crazy tunnel, and he's just essentially like a silhouette. And the
hmm
carriage come down and it's fucking black, and the horses are black. But the winter aspect too of like the snow falling on the roofs and just creating these beautiful images and tying in. I mean, the Christmas aspect doesn't really seem to add anything to the story in particular that I can think of, but it's a cool aesthetic, like to have this old style Christmas tree in, and it's got these candles on it, and what's his name lights his fucking pipe off the candles that are on the Christmas tree.
hmm
And that like just the winter vibe and the Christmas vibe is really cool. But also it was making me think, I don't think this is purposeful or intentional because like the other one throws it off, but I was thinking at this point for me, I have three solid seasonal Egger films where The Lighthouse is a fun summertime watch on the beach, mermaid themed, nautical themed. I always watch The Witch during autumn time. It's a great way to kick off spooky season. And now we have this Christmas winter themed Eggers. He just needs a really good spring film, and we'll have a year of Eggers.
The year.
The year.
Speaking
The
of
year of eggs.
the Christmas theme, I got some like Christmas Carol vibes.
Yeah,
Especially like when he's walking into the counting house at the very beginning. I'm like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's Scrooge's
yeah,
counting house right there.
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
I'm
All the
wondering,
stovepipe hats, all that stuff.
yeah, I'm wondering if Eggers like try to channel that on purpose so we would get that spooky, scary story during
hmm
Christmas time feel, or if
Mm.
it's just happenstance because it's the same time period.
Eggers could even do a spooky version of A Christmas Carol. I bet that
I
would
would
kick
That'd
ass.
fucking
be
love
sick,
that.
yeah.
But I
Tied
think that
with like
like
the ghost ass,
like
that'd be
Marley,
so
yeah,
sick.
Ghost Ass Marley would be great in an Eggers
Ghost
film. But
ass is
Ghost
great.
Ass
We've got
Marley,
vampire ass. Now we need the ghost
The ghost
ass.
ass.
we need it all done. We got witches as well.
Ass.
But I don't know, man. Like
Witch ass. He
I
just got
wanted
to
to
get
talk
all
about
the asses in there.
I did want to like point out, like you were talking about, like the color of this thing. Like this is another thing that I feel like is directly inspired by the source material. This is out of love for the original Nosferatu because it's got like day for night coloring and a lot of this. It's got color, but it's desaturated to shit.
Mhm.
Well, or it's heavily blue or it's heavily gold, and those are the two modes, just like in the original film, where gold means day, blue means night. That's how things worked because it had to work that way because black and white does not show those distinctions. So like it really carries through a love of the original and those kinds of decisions. And I love that he chose not to do like just straight black and white because I don't know, like I feel like he kind of did that with the lighthouse because it was like anachronistic to a time period that was invoking, but this is like invoking multiple time periods in the uh it's invoking like the early 20s film style as well as it is the Victorian, not Victorian, but like the gothic German style as well. Like all these things are kind of melding. It's just like I don't know, visually the way he does things is so impressive to me and so beautiful. Every shot in this movie feels like it was composed like by a true artist. You know what I'm saying? It just looks great. Everything, including like something that could easily fall flat as being hokey, like the way that he uses the shadow over the skyline and all this stuff, the shadow of Orlok's hand, that could easily play as hokey, but it doesn't. He buys all the goodwill he can by making it as sort of like feel as anachronistically correct and not hand holding the audience by making it by dumbing things down for our level of media interpretation. Does that make sense? Like like
Yeah.
everything is using language and vernacular. Like they use the term somnambulist in this movie, which like I immediately always associate with the Cabinet of Dr.
Yeah.
Caligari, which
Yeah.
is in the same
Mhm.
vein in so many ways. But it's also like correct. Like that's a thing. Like I know that like the people I was watching it with probably didn't know what that meant and just had to like surmise
Dumbasses.
it. Like no, just because it's not a word that's in use by us.
Can't
And so
believe
like
they
it
don't know
doesn't
what
hold your hand.
sambulance is.
I use it
Some
all the time.
ambulance.
Some ambulance.
Some
Some ambulance.
ambulance. I can't believe they don't
All
know
the
what that
time.
I
is.
had to call some ambulance because my buttle's
My
loose.
boy's a some ambulance, so he's kind of
Hey,
fucked
you
up.
gotta watch out
He's
for
a
him.
full-on rapist.
And now we're pissed, I heard.
Anyway, I don't know. I just really admire the way this man goes about making something and just digging in and not allowing um, what's easy to circumvent what feels right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and what is historically right in a lot of cases.
It's pretty. You brought up the blue tint and the gold tint. All that blue tint reminded me of all those horror movies from the early 2000s.
Oh yeah.
And I was
I'm
like The Ring and the Nightmare on
Underworlds
yeah,
1
the
through
Underworld.
80.
I was like, this
Whoa,
is how you
whoa,
fucking do it
whoa.
though. This is a good blue movie, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it's good. It's a good movie. That's the key
Yeah.
difference.
Well, it's about time to land that plane. I hate to cut
Yeah.
us off because I know I could keep going on and on. But if you have any other things you want to touch on, feel free to do so as we wrap this thing up. Um, but let's kick it off with Brandeezy. Out of five, how do you feel about Nosferatu?
I've done almost nothing but gush about this, but I actually came into this expecting to be a little bit of a dissenter because I had that feeling of too much familiarity. And I was going to write it off as being like, yeah, that's kind of my problem because I am so familiar with this. And that's maybe if I was as aware of like turn of this like 18th century fucking witch stories in early colonial America, that movie wouldn't have hit as well as it did. But like having talked about it with you, I've talked myself back up. I'm back in, and kind of I haven't. I understand that that's is kind of my problem, but it also adds a lot that I just wasn't privy to until I got to the end of the movie. I think you kind of nailed that, Matt. Like watching it again, I think is going to be kind of revelatory based on this conversation. I've mostly said everything else I want to say about this as far as I can remember. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pop it in there at a 4.75. I like
Just
this movie
pop
a
it
whole
in
hell of a
there.
lot. Lock it in. I like this movie. I like this
Damn.
filmmaker, and
What
he is
was that?
not
One more time.
disappointing. 4.75.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that like I do suffer for a little bit from that stuff, and it's not the thing is like just on a core emotional level, I don't respond to this the same way I responded to The Lighthouse or especially The Witch, which I think I gave both of those 5 stars if I remember right. I don't think that I think that the lack of surprise from some of the elements being used and tooled around within this um, it did harm it just a little bit, but I understand logistically why that is, and I can't really fault him for it. So I think that's where I just have to like go with my gut and say, yeah, I just don't like it quite as much.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Matt, how do you feel out of 5?
All right, let me swing through my notes here. Um, there's a bunch of scenes that I really liked, like it just plucked out standalone. I think they were amazing outside of the movie. When Knock is doing the candle cell phone call to Orlok with his bare ass on the floor, scene's amazing. Uh, the whole Romani camp, we never even talked about that. How
I know.
they're dead eyeing him when he walks in, and they steal his fucking horse, and the women are praying for him, and he was a dumbass and showed him how much money he had. Them using the virgin as a magnet to get pulled to the vampire grave. Like we didn't talk
That's
about any of that occult
yeah.
stuff. That stuff was amazing. That could be a short film on Cabinet of Curiosities, and I would fucking love every second of it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
you're right.
Yeah, from the
I
moment he shows up to the inn to that like stab through the
I
Warlock.
forgot about
Yeah,
that, honestly. That was a
I
great
honestly
scene.
forgot about it too. It was a great scene. Sorry, Matt.
no, no, no. Yeah, gush over it. Yeah. The
You heard him, boys.
When Thomas woke up in front of the fireplace hungover, I immediately bonded with him. I was like, "We've all been there, bro. I'm so sorry for you. Get up, get your shit together. It's gonna be a rough day."
And
Uh,
in his hiking gear too, I was like, "Oh, buddy, man,
ooh,
you got to feel
ooh.
like complete shit right now." I
Uh,
felt that too.
the whole contract scene where he Thomas doesn't know what he's signing, he isn't explained to him, and there's a threat of violence in the air. Uh,
Mm.
I legally and supernaturally, I don't see how that's fucking binding. That's some bullshit. Fuck it up. Uh,
Call
the
the manager, Matt.
the exorcist scene was amazing. I could just rewatch that exorcist scene over and over and over again. She does such a good fucking job. This is the same girl from Yoga Hosers. All right, just let that sink in.
Never
She
It's
saw it.
fucking
came a far
crazy.
way. Yeah, long way.
Uh, and then they shove that 9 inch nail through her fucking wrist. Fuck. Uh, all the rats. Someone had to juggle all those live rats. That had to be 1,000 rats, and they just let them loose and picked them up every night. That's crazy. You
They're
could have easily
trained.
just hired some CG rats, but no, fuck no,
Hired him.
not Edgar.
Get
You're
those
hired.
AI rat.
Yeah. Ellen's rage scene that ends with a hate like this weird rage fuck. That scene's amazing. We didn't even talk about it. Oh my
Yeah.
god. She like starts saying she's sorry and then crawls up to the blowjob position and then starts being creepy again? What the fuck?
Hmm.
This movie is so damn good. I'm
Damn.
I'm so glad I watched it again. My only issue with it is the pay. It is a little slow in the beginning, but they have to set so much shit up. Uh, every shot of the mountains is beautiful. Maybe they could have cut one or two of them out. I don't know. 4.75 also from me.
All right, 4 3/4 for Matt. Juice, how do you feel?
I feel pretty good. I was happy with this film, and kind of like Randy said, really my biggest thing was like it sucks because we've had a lot of iterations of this story, and I'm very familiar with it, and I've seen it a lot in a lot of different ways. So watching the film, it did feel a little bit of like a path I've been down before. It was great to see it done in a very artistic, like respectable way. But it's that still existed and it has to exist. He knew that when he was going to make this film. So, it is what it is. But one thing, a negative I'm going to bring up, we didn't get to discuss it. Unfortunately, I kind of forgot about it. But I think Matt mentioned in his first watch he thought the first part was kind of slow. One thing that kind of bothered me about the first part specifically stood out to me was I felt like too often the sound and the music was used to create dread or create suspense. I felt like the first half was almost like what I was seeing was slow, but the tone of the movie wanted me to be more stressed. I don't know. It felt like like it was pushing on me or something. I don't know. It was weird. Specifically the sound. It kind of bothered me. Um, but this is very beautiful. I loved like the some of this like just screenshot cinematography. Like I think the tunnel when he was walking down, that was one of the first moments where I was like, "Oh my God, this looks like so good." I loved that tunnel scene. It looked beautiful. But there's a lot of shots. The sexuality I thought was handled in a very interesting way because it kind of reminded me with some of the things we brought up on the substance, where there's this moment of sexuality where it's titillizing or whatever, and then like they bring in the horror element. It's like right there for you. So I thought that worked really well. Trying to think of all the other things that maybe I didn't bring up, but nothing's coming to mind. I thought all the performances were great.
You know what's
Um,
crazy?
hmm.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but like you brought up that this is the same girl from Yoga Hosers. Also, Aaron Taylor, whatever his name is, fucking Aaron
Yeah,
Taylor
Taylor Tyler
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah,
He kind of kills it in this. I loved his performance in
he's
this, and I just
fucking
kept thinking,
amazing.
this guy is next door to me as Craven the Hunter in one of uh, was going to be almost certainly considered one of the worst movies of the year.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's
I didn't even know it was
crazy.
him, to be
Yeah, that's
honest.
that's old kick ass.
Yeah, it's kick-ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't recognize that it was him
I
until like the end of the film.
I felt his grief, and I wanted to climb in that coffin with his wife with him, like for real.
I'll bet you did, Matt. We don't need to
Damn.
hear anything more about that.
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
crawl into
you
that
keep that to
coffin.
yourself.
Um,
Damn.
yeah, I liked that he didn't participate in the like hunt for Nos. Like I liked that. That was a good change, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I like this movie. I like also too this change to Christmas because it does encourage me more to watch this film again in Christmas season. As silly as that might sound, but I think this movie does probably benefit from a rewatch. But if it were just a straight Dracula movie or like Nosferatu movie, then I would be less likely to. But I think when Christmas comes around next year, I'm gonna be wanting to throw this on a little bit just to revisit it in that way. Um, but I'm gonna balance out these boys a little bit. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.25. I'm gonna give it a little bit of that room to grow. I think just being such an established story, and Eggers has a lot of expectation around him, you know. And as much as I want him to create his own kind of like original stories, also to like in the back of my mind, I'm like, come on, man, Nosferatu, like I know this had I don't know like he could his talents could be spent elsewhere in a less established property, something original, but
Right.
I'm happy with what I got ultimately. And I also too one more note, I do think that if I'm ever having that craving of I want to revisit the Dracula story, I think from now on this is going to be my go-to.
Yeah, I
For
agree with
for
that.
so many years there were like I was kind of piecing different elements. Like I kind of like this one for this, and I kind of like this one for this. I think this is finally gonna be like my go-to. I want some Dracula going on, and I think this fills that out. But yeah, 4.25. Bob, out of five, where are you gonna rate Nosferatu?
I might be a little cooler on this one than the rest of you boys. Something that I think bothered me about this, that it sounds like it didn't bother anyone else, is the look of the movie. It is very gorgeous, but it lacks a sort of like tangential, like filmic kind of thing that he brought to The Witch and definitely The Lighthouse. And it sort of fell away in The Northman, which I really didn't like. It's like too sleek, too clean, and then this kind of has that sort of sheen on it as well. And given that it is, riffing on definitely inspired by a movie that came out over 100 years ago, I kind of wish he went back to that sort of feel. Even or maybe even just during like the dream sequences or something. It felt like a little too sterilized, I think, for the story at hand. Outside of that, the performances are great. Lily Rose Depp, I think, did a really great job with her like convulsions and the way she contorts her body, and she was apparently like doing all that herself without any help. The close up on her face, that scene where like she sticks her tongue out and rolls her eyes back, like she's just doing a lot of really crazy stuff with her body in this movie that's super, super impressive. Skarsgård as Orlok, I loved. I thought any changes they made to the look of him, I thought were just kind of incredible. I love the look of it. I love how he treated the character. That was his real voice. He like trained to lower his voice to that level.
That's
I,
cool.
I thought it sounded awesome. Some of this stuff might have been kind of difficult to understand, but like it didn't ever bother me at all. And it if anything, it makes me want to watch the movie again to see if I get more out of what he's saying. Willem Dafoe seems like he's having the fucking time of his life in this movie, and I love watching him have the time of his life in this movie. Um, Sneaky Christmas movie, yeah. Overall, it is an enjoyable film, but I did find it just too familiar, and that's not the fault of the movie. I mean, it's gonna be expected if you're making a movie that's been around for 100 years, and we've seen it over and over and over again. I'm not super stoked that he did it, but like if anybody was gonna remake Nosferatu, I'm really glad it was Eggers because I think he's gonna do a better job than really anybody else could. I do want to rewatch it though after this conversation and see if it bumps my score up, but like I don't know. Another thing that they changed, which was pretty cool, is the way that he actually sucks blood out of somebody. He like bites through their sternum, like his jaw is so strong he bites through
Into their heart.
bone. Yeah,
Hmm.
like not into the neck. Yeah, and you like hear the crunch, just makes it even more violent and disturbing. I like that. Also, when Hutter finally gets to the castle, the way they have Orlok move when he's on camera is very, very slow. And then the second he's off camera, and then we pan back to him, it's like he's moved like 50 yards or something. And he's moved like
That's
way
cool.
too quickly. The way they sort of handle him, and it feels dreamlike because he is kind of in a trance, which is how he gets inside the papers and all this stuff. It's just the way they handled that whole interaction, I thought was pretty masterful, and I really
Mhm.
look forward to rewatching that moment as well. Um, yeah, I think we kind of touched on everything else that I wanted to say. I'm feeling a 4 on this, but like I said, room to grow. It might
Room to
it might
grow too, yeah.
Ooh,
Hmm.
might creep up.
bro. Oh,
You got to leave a little room to grow. But that's still going to put our aggregate at a 4.4, which is extremely favorable for this movie.
Rob did remind me real quick. I want to mention this is that the whole castle scene, I think that they represent it was another element that I thought they represented really well of him being in this like fever dream of like not
Mm.
really sure like mixing in between what's real and what's certain and what's not of like how he's easily able to fall into this like manipulative state but also panic state and be like how the fuck do I get out of here? Like I thought that they handled the castle
mhm.
scenes really really well.
Dude,
Yeah.
honestly, like there's so much more you could praise. Like I wanted to also
Yeah.
and say like the fact that this is just a movie that features full fucking scale ass like streets with filled with fucking people and it's not
Mm.
CG or any of that shit. Like it just just like the place setting and everything so good. There's so much to praise about this and I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure and chime that
we
in.
we were praising all the actors, and I think we forgot to praise the guy who played Herr Knock. His name is Sim McBurney,
Yeah.
and I hope
Mm.
that dude gets nominated for Best Supporting Actor because his part was small, but he fucking pulled it off perfectly. I
Mm.
Yeah.
believed, I believed he was obsessed. I believed he was crazy, and not once did it ever feel goofy.
Yeah.
Second only to Tom Waits in the Renfield role.
I know. That's the only thing that dinges that for me is like I just kind of need to see Tom Waits play that, and that he's the best part of that other one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So yeah,
we could keep going
4.4.
forever, but
And
yeah,
well, Randy, we're gonna roll right into our Rotten Tomatoes segment.
let's do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment of the show in which I'm going to have these folks guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is for RottenTomatoes.com for Nosferatu 2024. Starting as we always do with the critics, which is the tomatometer, and then moving on to the users, which is the poopometer. Um, let's start with our esteemed guest Matt today. I'm going to give you a chance to start us off. There are 217 reviews counted for critics for the tomatometer. Uh, uh, would you tell me what you think the aggregate positive score is from those 217 reviewers?
Uh, I think it's going to be pretty high. There might be some critics out there who want to feel edgy and knock it down a bit, but I think it's going to be pretty close to our score. I'm gonna say a 90.
You're going to say 90. Okay. We'll go over to Bob then. Bob, how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I think the vibes around this movie are pretty positive. A 90 is a good bet. I won't $1, but I will $2, and I'll take a 92, please.
92. All right. $2 Bob. Soju, where are you going with it?
Matt's gonna be our meat in the sandwich tonight. Because
Yeah.
I'll take the low end and I'll say 88, so I have a chance to tie with Matt and Matt alone.
Okay, yeah, leave Bob out in the cold. Well, I have some unfortunate news that nobody is going to tie today. Um, the actual correct score is 16%. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Craven the Hunter. It's 86%. So
The
Soju's going to take this
boys!
one. The boys. Nobody took the
16
goddamn boys.
16%. That's craven. Damn, that's high, honestly. That's
Whoa.
honestly higher than I thought it might be.
Get you a
Well,
man that can do both. And that man is
yeah.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
Uh,
I need him to say hell yeah.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
won't.
yeah. He
He
might.
won't.
He might.
He might.
But you like for the $2. If only one more person was wagering, we might have gotten there.
No.
um, yeah, 86%. Let's move over to the poopometer, the popcornometer, the users. There are 2,500 plus varied ratings in your section here. I'm going to go in reverse order. Give Juice a first bite at the apple here. What do you think those 2,500 plus ratings are going to net to?
I don't know. I mean, probably similar, but not as high as the critics. So I'll go a little bit lower and say 80.
80. Okay. You're meeting the sandwich. What are you going to do?
I think it's gonna be higher. You know what? I'll take the boys. I'll take them. 86 project.
You going with the boys? Okay, all
I'll
right.
take him.
I'm sure they're happy to hear it. How about you, Matt? Round us out. We
Well,
got 80. We got 86. How about
I
you?
think when we went, the theater was sold out. I mean, I think there's a lot of people excited about this movie, and I think a lot of the horror fans are really going to show up for it. So I'm going to do our score because we're men of the people and do 88.
88. All right. Well, gentlemen, Juice is going to take this one too. It's a 76% from the poopometer.
Damn, that's kind of low.
76. That's
Yeah.
kinda low. You guys forget not everybody likes artsy movies.
Yeah, it's artsy fartsy, but a lot of people went to see it. See, that's the difference.
That's true.
Is
Mhm.
so when you have a movie that's so distinguished, there's gonna be some people who aren't gonna vibe
Here it
with
comes.
it. No, some hell
Here it
yeet.
comes.
Sweet.
Waiting,
Yeah, there it
just
is. Okay.
waiting.
All right, cool.
I was trying to
Just waiting.
let me give
I
Randy
don't
what he
believe
needs.
you. Yeah, thank you. I
What
needed
is it?
that.
What are they? What are
I
they?
needed.
What do they feel?
I need. Um, yeah. So 76% from the users there. Let's go down to the critics' consensus, which reads as follows: marvelously orchestrated by director Robert Eggers, Nosferatu is a of a horror film that is equal parts repulsive and seductive. And speaking to the audience, I forgot to mention this, but we were sitting in a pretty full theater as well, and there were some like elderly folks that were sitting right next to it. And
Randy, you gotta
they
like
were,
reset or something. Like every other word's fucked up, man.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna have
sound
to.
like
It's gonna
shit.
take me
oh
hours to
really?
fix this thing.
Okay, let me leave and come back, and
All
I can
right.
start that rant again.
I
Be
think
right
when
back.
he's in Florida,
Yeah, last week was the same, dude. It took me
yeah, I
fucking
know.
forever to edit the
He
thing.
was in
Really?
Florida last week too, right?
Yeah, let's like
Well,
just
this
wrap this up. I mean, you can try and reset. I don't know that's gonna fix it because it was the same problem last week.
well, it can't hurt. So let me reset, and then we'll just jump on.
Okay,
All right.
Or maybe maybe he can turn his camera off.
that might help. Yeah.
Boy, her forehead's big. I keep seeing her behind your head, Juice. I was like, man,
Dude,
that.
and when I look at her other pictures, it's the hairstyle. It's definitely
Yeah,
not
it's
working well
100%
for
the
her.
hairstyle.
But
Yeah,
during the movie, it was something that was like catching my attention a
it was a
lot.
bit distracting.
It was. I was like, that does look odd.
Actually, I'm back. I might stay off
We
camera
were
so
gonna
that
say,
you
yeah,
can.
keep your camera off, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Let me do that. Let me reshare my audio,
Yeah,
and we can jump back
let's
into it.
get to the other or well, yeah, let's go to the other segments and you can just hang back a little bit.
Okay. Uh, quick test here.
It is not in the file.
Dude,
That come through?
even yes, but not great.
Shit. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Let's zoom through.
just try to just keep it. Don't no more rants for you tonight.
That's a goddamn shame for everyone.
Well, all right.
So, Bob, you want to cue up the next segment,
Yeah. I don't. Hang on.
or
I gotta
I can cue
find.
you up. How about this? All right. So, you just tell me when you're ready.
Yeah. Hang on a second.
Sure. This is gonna be great behind the scenes shit right here. So good. So good.
Okay. Yeah. There's I haven't started recording yet, but there's like not really much trivia. Whatever I had, I kind of already said. So I'll start rolling, and I'll just cue Juice up for Cooter of the Week, and then we can jump into that.
Okay.
All right, you boys ready?
Yeah.
Yep. Let's roll.
All right, boys, there really wasn't much trivia this week. Whatever I had, I kind of already threw into the conversation. So let's roll right into our Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'.
Juice, what is a Cooter, and why do we hunt them?
Okay. Cooter's character set in a straight chilling exclusive. Cooter has to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, but we want the cooter with the most points. Matt, you're our esteemed guest this week, and I know you know what a cooter is, so please hit us with those 5 points.
Overall looking attire, overall patheticness, sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance.
Nailed it. Cooter Hunter for life.
Bravo.
Boys, I think we got a clear number one tonight. Let's start with our boy Orlok.
My boy,
My
Orlok.
boy.
Well,
Well,
manipulation,
Check.
mhm.
Check.
smug
Pathetic.
arrogance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, pathetic. Check.
Pathetic, them pancake booties.
Well,
Dude, that last
that's not what
shot.
I was.
That
On my
last
rewatch,
shot.
on my
Yeah.
rewatch, when he stands up swinging dong, he has normal legs.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
just the
Oh, yeah.
sun.
He crevices, or he
Yeah.
can crevices is not the right word. He
Nope.
collapses on himself.
Yeah. So
His booty hole crevices
his booty got sucked up.
by the sun.
Yeah, the sun was
Happens to the
sucking
best
his
of us.
booty. Um, well, so sure, that's pathetic. Yeah, I mean
Sexual
the sexual
deviance.
deviancy, yeah, the manipulation. So does he hit looking at tire? I don't
I
know. What
don't
do
know,
we give
man.
him for that? He's kind of rotting.
He's
Yeah,
a
but
straight.
that's a
He's a
sweet
pretty good looking
outfit.
guy.
Yeah.
Is it?
If I could wear that outfit and get away with it, I would.
Well,
That devil
Look,
lock and mustache combo. I don't see how people could look down
how
on
w-
you.
You can pull
how
it
well do
off.
you think you could pull maggots under your skin though? Because I think that's
That's
maybe
true. That's
pushing it.
true.
yeah. Well, either way, we got a cooter there. Was there anybody else? What about his little number deuce?
Knock? Well, pathetic.
Yeah, we could say pathetic and manipulation for sure.
Yeah.
Looking at Tyre, he gets pretty grody there toward the end, doesn't he? Doesn't he get kind of
Yeah,
like,
he's not wearing a lot.
Yeah.
or anything
I don't think
sometimes.
he's ever combed his
Mhm.
hair.
Yeah. And then so manipulation, overall patheticness. Did he have some, oh, it didn't, so a little bit of smug arrogance, right? Wasn't it like his kind of tone and attitude towards Ellen kind of like really
Yeah, he was
negative
super
and
jealous of
yeah,
her.
jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that was kind
he
of some
wanted to
smut.
be
He
his.
wanted to be the king of the rats or something. Yeah, so some of that. So I think he
With
is
me in the
enough.
studio is the Dark Lord Blood.
Dark Lord Blood. My blood. My boy Blood. Yeah, so I think he hits, but I don't really think there's anybody else. Do you?
I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
Frederick's
go ahead.
kind of a dick.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
but I
don't
don't
know,
think
but
he.
his like
I don't
wife
think
and
so.
kids die.
I
I
mean,
mean,
necrophilia, if you want to put that on there. I don't
sexual
know.
I don't know for sure
deviance.
if there was actual necrophilia. I didn't really
The
totally get that
attempt
impression.
count.
I think he just wanted to die like with her,
I
and
mean,
he was
I
dying
thought he
already.
was going for it. He was
I
Maybe
into
you're
thought
her,
so
right,
wasn't
but I didn't
too.
get that impression in the theater anyway.
Oh,
Well, I think because a lot of gothic romantic novels will try to make something like that sound okay with a lot of flowery speech, and I think that was Edgar's way of just showing us like it's not cool. It's not cool to curl up with a corpse and uh,
he?
think about
Yeah.
them in a
hey,
physical way.
Dirty bird.
don't knock it till you try
God
it.
damn, dude.
Jeez. Jeez, you're gonna have to write that memoir one day.
Don't knock it till you try it.
I
The
mean,
G Stain story.
Yeah,
Damn.
you can say that about a lot of things.
I mean, nobody's gonna top Orlok in this movie.
No,
There might be some
yeah, no,
cooter
he's King
adjacent
Cooter.
folks, but
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, he's definitely the cooter of this movie. Lock him up and throw away the key before he brings rat plague to your town.
do it.
Boys, let's skip what we've been watching this
Rat
week and
plague.
just get
The
right.
librarian's gonna hate it.
That's
Oh my
okay.
God.
She will
Oh my
forgive
God.
us because we're about to hear her voicemail. Let's jump
Okay.
into our hotline screams.
Hotline scream.
If you guys are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. Like I said, first up, we're hearing from the librarian. Let's hear what she's got to say.
Hey Divas. I wanted to call in with my bottom four movies. Tune in next week to hear my top five if I remember to call in. I might wait till I see Nosferatu because I am expecting that movie to blow my dick clean off. Anyway, bottom four. Coming in fourth place with 1 star. Blink Twice. I know some are hot on this movie, but I actually found it genuinely offensive. I'm not going to say why because of spoilers, but I think it is the worst iteration of late-stage capitalistic girl boss feminism. Third place, Joker Folia Deuce. I wrote on Letterboxd root canal painful, and I stand by that. Second place, The Watchers. My friend passed me a note on the Alamo Draft House order card saying, "Oh brother, this kind of stinks," and I couldn't agree more. And in first place for the worst movie I saw this year with a half-star rating, Craven the Hunter. Holy shit, this movie was so fucking bad. The only redeeming quality of Aaron Taylor Johnson is the sexiest man alive. And that is it. That is my bottom four movies. And I know y'all are covering the substance for this episode. I did see it in theaters 5 times. I fucking love that movie. I think it's so fucking perfect. So I better hear some great Soju certified female perspective and a solid 5-star from the boys, or I don't know, I'll scream, cry, throw up, all of the above. So, bye!
Uh-oh.
I'm the Joker, baby.
Dude, I haven't
Nice.
seen
Damn.
that movie. I haven't had time to watch the movies that are notoriously bad, but I'm kind of curious about how bad they are. That's one of them,
Yeah,
but
there's so many good movies I haven't seen yet. I
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know
No,
why I would go out and seek these bad ones.
I've got
Yeah.
Craven the Hunter.
decades of good movies, but like I also really do enjoy watching a terrible movie every so often. So there's some
Sometimes
interest
I
there. Also, I always like Craven the Hunter as a character in comics, so I was a little curious about it.
That's not something I'm interested at all. But the Joker, I like I want to watch like 30 minutes of it. Like I want to see just how fucking bad it is.
It's on Max.
Oh,
Check it
I
out.
know. Oh my Lord. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Sorry we had to kick that voicemail to a week later there, librarian. Call back in with your top five. Let's hear what they
Yeah.
are. I have a feeling the substance might be at number one, perhaps.
Oh man, how did
Well,
you know?
Again, if you guys are listening and would like to call in for next week, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Any prompts y'all want to throw out for next week's show?
Well, it's the new year. Tell me what you're planning to do this year. What's your
What are you doing for the year?
what are you doing?
For
Give
the
me
whole
What are
your
year?
you even doing this
schedule, where
year?
you live, who you're
Yeah, I'm
seeing these
asking for your
days.
social security number right now.
What are you
We're
doing?
gonna play it on the air.
How many dicks were blown off with fireworks?
What are your intentions
Jesus.
for this year?
What are your intentions?
With my year.
With
My year.
Nosferatu coming out too, there's been a lot of talk about like favorite vampires and favorite style of vampires. I think
Hmm.
I'd like to hear about that. Like my wife went and bought a Twilight shirt to wear to Nosferatu just to show her vampire allegiance.
Ooh, I need to get a Team Orlok shirt.
As opposed to Team Hutter, or
Team Edward, duh. Fuck that guy. Too sexy.
they should be in the same movie and they should make out. That would be tight.
Oh,
I think you just touched a whole new section of slash fiction that we need to get in on the ground floor.
You're right. Yeah, call in. Let us know worst of the year, best of the year. How's your New Year's? Did you blow your dick off fireworks? Let us know. 904-638-3231. We'll be back next week. We're talking about the winner of the January poll, which, like I said up top, looks to be Oddity. And that is still on Shutter. So slam it into your eyeballs. Get ready for next week's show. You can find us on social media. Just search Straight Chilling Podcast anywhere. We'll pop right up. If you want to join in the Slack channel daily conversations, hit us up on one of those social media outlets and I'll send you a link so you can. Matt, brother, thanks so much again for sitting in with us, dude. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, man, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for watching this movie a whole second time and like brushing up and taking notes and like just doing the work, putting the work in,
Yeah,
man.
doing the work we refuse
You're a real
to do.
one. A real one.
Well, it's easy when you only do it like once a year. So
Check out Swords and Stereo everywhere you get your podcasts. Bold City Longsword if you want to learn how to murder people with swords. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
And a Happy New Year.